Get us started, I would like to invite Mark Serwotkas, General Secretary of PCS, and I apologise for my accent, and President of the TUC to address us.
Well, thanks very much, Chair, Congress and Conference. I bring the fraternal greetings on behalf of the TUC and our General Secretary, Francis O'Grady. And I'm delighted to address this as the outgoing TUC President and also a proud new member of the Carmarthen East and Duneville constituency, a constituency we're determined to take off Plaid Cymru in the general election. Now, Conference, the TUC met a week or so ago and had the most united conference. And I want to bring you a flavour of that conference with our greetings. And I want to start by recognising that I saw yesterday the most outstanding speech from Jenny Formby, a General Secretary of this party that we should all be proud of. And Jenny told her story about what happened with her in the NHS. I want to start just briefly with my own story. I passed my own personal milestone 3 weeks ago, 1,000 days since a heart transplant, my fourth life-saving operation carried out by the greatest creation of our movement. And let us be clear, it is the creation of the Labour movement, our NHS. And as Jenny mentioned yesterday, that is an NHS that is a team. It is a team of people from all different professions: the cleaners, the porters, the radiographers, the physiotherapists, the doctors, the nurses, the admin staff, the paramedics, the midwives, those community nurses who came out every day over Christmas to change my dressings when most people are enjoying themselves. They are the most fantastic team. And we have to say to the Tories and to Donald Trump, keep your dirty mitts off our NHS. We will not stand by and let you privatise our health service. But, Conference, I also want to bring you this message from the TUC, and it's simple. Over many life-saving operations and many months that I stayed in Papworth Hospital, I want to make this point about the people who treated me. They came from all parts of Britain, but they came from Africa, from Asia, from Eastern Europe, from all parts of the globe. And they came to this country, and we hear right-wing politicians tell us we don't want migrants. Migrants are not welcome here because this country's full up. I say thank God that migrants came to this country, and we must continue to welcome them at every single turn. And I say that not just because of the fantastic role that they play every day in our economy and in our public services, but this country is only what it is because of centuries of immigration and the cultural enrichment that people come into this country have brought. So we should say clearly that people are not homeless because of migrants. They can't get a doctor's appointment because of migrants. They can't get into their local NHS because of migrants. They cannot not get a job because of migrants. It is because of Tory austerity and bad bosses, the length and breadth of this country. And we should say as a Labour movement that migrants must get trade union rates of pay, trade union jobs and trade union membership, and that is the greatest thing that this movement can offer to people who come to this country. Now, Congress, I also want to make this point. There's been an awful lot of newspaper coverage over the last few days. There's been an awful lot of attempts to divide our movement and to let Boris Johnson cling on to power or to get in through the back door. Now, at the TUC, we did something that I think was a fantastic thing to see. We united, and we united on a position over Brexit, and we united for this simple reason. If we let Brexit divide our movement, if we let Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage pretend to the people of the Rhondda and Sunderland and Scotland and parts of England that he in some way is an anti-politician who is on the side of the working man and woman, it will be the biggest disaster ever. Conference, let's be clear about this. Let's be clear about this. Boris Johnson will pretend he speaks for the 52% who voted leave. He speaks for the 1% of the elite rich, and we speak for all those across our country, whether they voted leave or whether they voted remain. So the TUC was clear. We unite to fight a no-deal Brexit. We unite urgently for a general election. Our biggest priority is to get Jeremy Corbyn into number 10 and to say to the people of this country that only Labour and the Labour movement can unite everyone, regardless of which way they voted, by negotiating, unlike Theresa May and her nonsense over 3 years in power, a credible deal that will be put by a Labour government to the people of this country. And that's the way that we can deal with what is something I hope we all remember dearly. When in Wales, the country of my birth, we see the Brexit Party winning yet an election, we should all worry. There is not a single person in the Rhondda Valley, the Cynon Valley, the Merthyr Valley or anywhere else who will gain a single thing from Boris Johnson or Nigel Farage. It is only a socialist government tackling austerity and dealing with all the things you've debated that can give any hope to the people of Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and indeed of England. So in finishing, I want on behalf of the TUC to bring this message, that if we don't let them divide us, if we don't let Boris Johnson get away with it, and we remember what's at stake, we can win this general election. And we remembered last week what was at stake. We had Jeremy address our Congress. We had the wonderful Laura Pidcock address our conference, making it clear that a Labour government will legislate for workers' rights, full employment rights, repeal the anti-union laws, fight austerity. It is a government that when we go to the polls, we should have in our mind when our X goes on the ballot box, the people we see sleeping rough in Brighton and in every major city, the people who sleep on our streets who have a life expectancy of 45, the women in this hall whose life expectancy is currently lower than their mothers. We should remember those disabled people committing suicide because of the disgrace that is a social security system in this country. And we remember our health workers, our education workers, our local government workers fighting with their councils having 40% budget cuts. And we also remember this, our private sector workers who keep this economy going under a Labour government. The fruits of their labour should be in their pockets, not lining the pockets of the tax-dodging billionaires who put their money in the Cayman Islands. So, my final point is this. A final story about austerity Britain. I stand here not just as a member of this party and as an outgoing president of the TUC, but as the General Secretary of a civil service trade union, PCS. A union that predecessor was forbidden by law after the 1926 general strike of affiliating to the Labour Party. Last week we took a historic decision. In the up-and-coming general election, we will be campaigning for the first time ever for a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour government. And I tell you why. I have members on strike today, 10 weeks on strike in a government department in Bays. Mainly black women, migrant workers, cleaners, caterers, security guards, porters and messengers. Privatised by the Tory government and treated appallingly. They don't even get the London living wage, some of them on less than £9 an hour. We've had the most brilliant picket lines. And unlike those days, I can remember going to a TUC conference and being told off by the Labour leader that we shouldn't have gone on strike over pensions. The difference here was that all the shadow cabinet have been on our picket line. They all raise it in Parliament. They all stand with the workers. And what is the result? The result is this. After 10 weeks, while there's a little bit to do, these workers were told by Andrea Leadsom they are all going to get the London living wage, not because of her, but because they went on strike, backed by their union, backed by this Labour Party and trade unions across the country. If they can do it, Our members balloting now in the CWU, in the UCU, our health workers who are on strike in Lincolnshire, and so many more, can look to a future with strong unions, fighting bad bosses in the workplace, and a radical Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour government defeating austerity. That is what the people of this country need. Greetings from the TUC.
Thank you, Mark.